Hello, comic book readers, and welcome to a new live episode of Off the Rack. Today's episode, I am ashamed to say, is going to be probably 80 to 90% worse than it normally is because Tiffany is not going to be here today. She's feeling a little under the weather, so I insisted that she take a break and just kind of like save her voice because throat's bothering her. So she's going to be me today. So unfortunately, we're just going to be talking about the books that I read this past week, recap and review them, tell you what we thought about them, and then recommend comics that are coming out this week that I think you should check out. Also, I'm going to select my book of the week, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the big game trailer that came out for the Thunderbolts Asterisk movie that is dropping on May 2nd. I'm really excited about that and more. So before we do that, I want to mention that I want to thank everybody for being kind and for offering your thoughts and prayers, so to speak, for Tiffany and her quick recovery. I'm sure she'll be fine within like the next day or two, but I believe under my insistence, she is off to an urgent care facility just to get a swab, make sure that she's good to go. But if you want to say something nice, feel free to follow her or give her a mention on socials at The Real Zoobs and let her know that you're thinking about it. Otherwise, we're going to jump into this show, ladies and gentlemen, and I am hyped about it. So if you are a follower of this channel and you are a avid viewer of our shows, then you may have noticed on Sunday we dropped our second episode of the currently but not for long unnamed podcast between myself and two other members of the ComicPop crew, Ben and Ethan, where we chatted about the Fantastic Four teaser. We talked about Jurassic Park as a franchise. We actually did a viewing of the Jim Carrey dance from Sonic 3, and so much more. So if you haven't already checked out that episode, it is available here on this channel, and it's out right now. And not to be outdone, but Joshua Williamson, writer of G.I. Joe and Superman and more, has returned to this channel to resurrect our show All Stars. So that episode is dropping tomorrow around Tuesday, probably around noonish between 12 and 3. So if you are not already subscribed, I highly recommend that you subscribe to this channel and click that bell for notifications so you know when we're going live and when any video on this channel goes out there, which is on Mondays around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when we go live here on Off the Rack. Normally, I'm joined by my lovely co-host Tiffany, but not today. But next time, we're going to come back at it with full force because there's a bevy of comics that are coming out this week that we're going to have to talk about and we're going to have to get into and chat about with you guys. But also, we have multiple podcasts, including a conversation interview show where I chat with comic book creators, great and greater. Most recently, I actually talked to Ron Mars, author of creator of Kyle Rayner, author of Silver Surfer, Green Lantern, DC versus Marvel, and so forth. That episode offered a really fun insight into what Jim Starlin is like as a creative and as a person and as an explorer. So definitely, if you haven't already checked out that episode, you need to see that. Like, it's a really fun show that when Ron brought it up, I was like, is he for real? I was like, is this a real story? He's like, oh yeah. And that all came out of just my shameless love of the Batman Aliens crossover. The first one, not that second one. Although, the second one has its merits. But anyway, yeah, I'm hyped to talk about that. Josh's come back on Tuesday, and maybe, just maybe, another old familiar face. Not old in terms of their age. This creative character is nowhere near the age that I would consider to be old, but familiar certainly, and fan favorite is returning to the channel. We should be chatting with them tonight. That will not be live, but it will be pre-recorded and uploaded probably on Sunday, because that seems to be when we drop our what's it called? Our pre-recorded podcasts and stuff. So yeah. I'm really excited to offer you as many as we can, as many amazing shows that we can offer. Anyway, you're not here for that. But I should mention that the show is sponsored by viewers like you. If you're watching the show live, you can sponsor today's show by using Super Chats. Ask a question or comment. I'll read it here on the show. It'll be part of the show forever. We're going to relegate that to the end so that we can dedicate all the time I can to just questions and answers so we can really go off the beaten path in that regard. So yeah, as far as comics go, we're going to get into that. But before we do, I must discuss Thunderbolts Asterisk from Marvel Studios. I'm hyped about this movie. I didn't want to spoil it right off the bat, but I will say I've been really looking forward to this movie ever since I saw, like, I want to say even a poster, much less a teaser. But this concept, which I'm certain the asterisk means Dark Avengers, is fun, despite the kind of like familiar power set. In fact, in this trailer, they directly address the criticisms I've heard of people being like, so it's a bunch of people who punch and kick, like, and ghost who can go through walls. Like, these are your options. Like, this is the entire team. And it's like, yeah, man. I mean, like, if you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not everybody has crazy and impressive powers. And those that have the most impressive powers are probably run by another studio. So, yeah, but we got another teaser on the big game where we got a little insight. And it occurred to me after watching this teaser that we're getting what, like 3 Marvel movies this year. We're getting Thunderbolts. We're getting Captain America. So Thunderbolts, May 2nd. That's after Captain America. And that's happening February 14th. And then we're getting Fantastic Four. 3 massive and very different in terms of character and, tone and franchise size. All before Halloween. Is that good? Is that frustrating? Is that too much? I mean, certainly when we heard that, the heads of both Disney and Marvel Studios were going to like dial things back and try to kind of not overstay their welcome and and really focus on quality over quantity. I did not expect 3 massive Marvel movies to drop in one year, but I know that Thunderbolt's been on the roster for a while, and Fantastic Four has been, just been right around the corner for, since Far From Home. And yeah, and then we got Captain America, Brave New World, which I am excited for. I think if I had to go in tiered order when it comes to Marvel movies specifically coming out in 2025, I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four the most, then Thunderbolts, and then Captain America. Not to say that I think that Sam's not going to cut it. I think it's going to be a great movie, or at least it's going to be a great entertaining experience for me. But I'm more enthused by what's going to happen with the Thunderbolts, because if there's a team, you can kill everybody on the team. Like, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I think that they're probably not going to try and lose Florence Pugh, but there are other characters in there who aren't going to have their, like, they're not going to make like a Russian Avengers team anytime soon. I don't see Ursa Major showing up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe anytime soon, unless there's a really raging cameo, in which case I will be wrong. But yeah, I think that like the most amount of holy crap, I can't believe they did that can happen in Thunderbolts. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Plus, I really like a lot of these characters. Like, I'm interested to see where John Walker's journey takes us. I love this version of Yelena, thanks to Hawkeye. And Red Guardian's amazing. Bucky, obviously, is going to be kind of like the through line for this whole thing. At least that's the expectation that I have here. Plus, the implication of Bob. Who's Bob? What's that all about? Well, I think comic book fans should know that the Sentry is going to be the main kind of problem in this. And I could already imagine a lot of parallels be drawn, at least from the public eye, between this and, let's say, a certain Suicide Squad team movie where a bunch of characters that all have kind of the same powers, and literally there's a sequence where 2 of them talk about how they have the exact same power set, fight something that should absolutely be above their pay grade. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this had shades of that. But the teaser was cool, and I was excited to see more. We got our glimpse of Avengers Tower and what became of that. How profoundly disappointing and uninteresting that Val, aka Elaine Bennis or Julia Louis-Dreyfus, took over the tower, and that maybe I'm seeing a lot of speculation online that maybe those Sentry Watchtowers being incorporated into Avengers Tower, which of course has its roots from New Avengers. I think maybe if you squint hard, it looks like that. I don't see it right away. I do dig the idea. I don't think Bob's making it out of this movie alive. And for going into speculation, I also don't think that the Red Guardian is making it out alive. I think that it will be tragic and sad to lose Red Guardian in this movie. And I think, you know what? If you're looking for emotional manipulation in the form of entertainment, it's the smart move. So yeah, I don't know, man. It looks like a pretty cool movie that I'm excited to check out. It's not gonna kick off the summer season because like I feel like Captain America is gonna kick off the like big blockbuster season, but maybe not. February. It's a tough month. We'll see. But yeah, I am excited for Thunderbolts. Asterisk. So yeah, interesting. I mean, it could be we're getting a Suicide Squad where it's like, yeah, because I remember Taskmaster's supposed to be in this movie as well. None of her. Ghost has not been used at all in any way. Could die. The Sentry is a character that is, I think, too powerful for them to keep around. Though it would be interesting to see, the Sentry kind of like act as a really messed up dual powered Superman, where it's like the Avengers are gone. There's no more Avengers. There's even a line in there about it. The Sentry makes it. The Thunderbolts go under, and Sentry is taken over, or Sentry is it's kind of like the de facto superhero. Though I think the asterisk says that a handful of these characters are going to survive and form the Dark Avengers. Sentry, hopefully one of them. Maybe even kills Red Guardian, so there's a lot of tension on the team about Sentry being there, and also, them not being able to take out their revenge, or at least Black Widow not being able to take out her revenge. I mean, the asterisk alone says to me, this is not what the team is meant to be, is the Thunderbolts. The interesting thing is, they're not going to call the team like the newspaper isn't going to say Dark Avengers. I think that the movie is going to imply these are the Dark Avengers, and we're just kind of along for the ride. But yeah, Thunderbolts, good looking stuff. I'm hyped, and it has that kind of like little movie that could kind of feel. So I'm hoping that that there is A, I hope it's good, and B, I hope that there's some room for for this movie in the hearts of the movie going audience who has been, I'd hate to say, or I'd hesitate to say, like, disenchanted with the franchise, but I mean, this is where we are. I will also say I don't know this director from much, if anything. Looks like a lot of TV stuff, music videos, and things like that. But I have not seen anything that they made. The director's name is Jake Schreier, and they made a movie called Dave, brand new cherry flavor. The premise, Beef, and they directed some of, if not all of this, one episode of The Skeleton Crew from Star Wars, which I have not seen a single scrap of celluloid from. So yeah, cool. Thunderbolts. It's got my seal of approval until I see it and then change my opinion based on what I've seen, which I think we should all do. Anyway, I caught here's a miracle. Speaking of miracles, I guess, so to speak. A book came out this past week that I think most people completely forgot about. And I think that's understandable because it's been a while since the last issue came out. I want to say Batman Offworld #5 came out at the end of August. But now here we are from Jason Aaron and Doug Mankey. We've got ourselves a Batman Offworld conclusion. Finally, this book has ended. And I know when I normally say that, it's with a hint of, disdain. Like this book wouldn't end or refused to end. No. It was only 5 issues, and it was a treat and a joy to read every single month or year that it came out. I love this book. Massive shades of Legends of the Dark Knight in terms of this book's premise is Batman is in his younger days, I want to say pre-Robin days, ends up fighting an alien who was hired by a mobster in Gotham, realizes he has no training against otherworldly threats, And so he decides to maroon himself in space and go on his own kind of like space version of his training pilgrimage in order to become a threat across the galaxy. What he ends up doing is kind of spreading the legend of Batman across the stars and making some friends along the way in terms of, you know, crazy space wolves, um, disaffected, broken training module robots, and hey, taking a page out of the Nightwing book, sexy Tamaranians. So this book was the inevitable conclusion. It could have gone one of two ways. It could have gone sad because look, Ione, the Tamaranian bounty hunter that Batman occasionally sleeps with, and sometimes is traded for money and advantage, is not in any other books because she is invented for this story. And Batman doesn't like say anything to Dick at any point in the 80s when Dick Grayson was with Coriander. So I don't know how they would have explained that outside of being like, well, Batman's a stoic guy, he doesn't mention it, or she died. And so you got two options. I'm really kind of like appreciative that they didn't go in the more stereotypical direction and instead allows us to try these characters out. I dig this book. Doug Mankey's art is awesome. It's consistent throughout. There's no dip in quality. I assume that's why, but Jason Aaron is a very busy guy. He's working on all kinds of projects from Turtles to books about tiny people. I don't know. It's a roller coaster ride that you, in every sense of the word, where it's like there's thrills and chills and spills, but you know that it's safe and you know you're not going to be harmed and you know where it's going to end up when you complete the ride. So no problem there with this book. I just adored the entire experience. Mankey's art is awesome, and again, like I suspect that Mankey needed more time. I'm so glad that the time was taken because there's no dip in quality in terms of writing or art. The book looks great. The book feels great. The book was fun, and I think it's going to read fantastic in trade, like so many books. And people are going to dig the shit out of this series when it's in trade. If they didn't sleep on it to begin with, if you did, go back and pick up Batman Off-World. It's a really fun ride, and it's absolutely worth the price of admission. So, yeah, but I'm glad to see that it's finally here at the end. I wonder if it was delayed because it took too long, you know, because they needed time to actually finish the book, or if it was just finished and they pushed it back for, you know, reasons unknown, maybe because of the absolute launch. I couldn't tell you. I'm not here to speculate about that. I'm down. When it comes out in trade, I'm going to get it. I'm going to talk about it on Back Issues, and I hope people buy it because I dug the series. Pardon me. When there's only one person on this show, I need to have a drink once in a while. And when I say that, you know, for our audio listeners over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and whatnot, I mean a sip of my, beverage of choice, which is non-alcoholic. I simply mean that it's going to take a minute for us to have we're all just going to share a quiet moment while I have this drink. Typically, I will lean on Tiffany to be like, hey, could you please talk while I'm taking this drink, or I'll use her review as an opportunity to take a drink. But anyway, moving on, I read Ultimates, which, has been a book that I've had a very interesting love-hate relationship with for the last 8 or 9 issues. Written by Dennis Camp with art by Chris Allen. This is not your typical Ultimate story, or rather it is. The point is, it's introducing Luke Cage. Ultimate Luke Cage is here. Hooray! The story is interesting in as much as it gives you a version of Luke Cage that is very familiar, but also entirely original and entirely its own thing. Basically, a young Luke Cage at I think age 15 gets caught up in the non-American, because the Ultimates world isn't America. It's like the North American Union of whatever the hell. But look, the whole series has been Camp's opportunity to use this book to talk about issues with the society which we all participate in. Good call, smart idea, especially when you can actually say, no. Dennis Camp isn't talking about America. He's talking about the North American flabbity flu from Hickman. But yeah, it's also, it is about America. So Luke Cage is roped up in the American prison system, which has its own massive issues and flaws and problems. And so we see that on display. We see Luke Cage's indomitable spirit. Though he missed the opportunity to become unbreakable, his spirit is anything but unbreakable. So yeah, we watch his journey and his growth, and how the joke, tragic though it is like, you got like 1 to 5 years in prison. You're not gonna be there forever. And he's there for the entirety of his life, like from 15 to whatever age they want to say he is. But I believe they actually say it's like 2020 years. I think he goes from 2005 to 2025. But yeah, essentially, the book plays with time. We see him in the present day of 2025, but also talk about how he was part of this like prison break in 2024. And then we see that he has actually been made into Luke Cage by Iron Lad at some point before he was beaten into a coma. And we watch Luke Cage use that power and become, the true Power Man for, social upheaval and change, and to rescue his brothers in arms who are, unfortunately equally trapped in the, flawed prison system that he's part of. And, cool. That's the book is kind of almost a done in one, where it's just like the origin of the ultimate Luke Cage. There you go. So you got that, and you got a little check-in for Iron Lad, and because he's been killed / beaten into a coma, so he's in his Kryptonian healing pod. She-Hulk or Hulk, I'm not sure what term they're using for her, but she talks to Stark. She's like, I gotta go. And I think she said that earlier. Like, I remember there was a moment where she like left already, but I guess she has to leave now. And so she tells Stark while he's like, unconscious, I'm leaving. And maybe Stark wakes up. So you'll have to buy it to find out. Really, really terrific art. Similar stylings to what we're used to. I want to say that we've seen Chris Allen's work here before, but the last issue was done by Juan Ferrigari. So Allen does a nice job of picking up where Ferrigari left off and maintaining a very similar style and tone. So the book never really feels like it's different, or that it like shifts in any significant way. So for that, I will commend them. Camp's writing is Camp's writing. If you dig it, it's for you. If you don't, it's not going to change in 9 issues. But I feel like Camp is weaving a really fun story about, that is about these characters and about this world, while also saying what he wants to say and being given inordinate amounts of freedom to do it, which is great. Like, good for him. And I don't say that I can't say that that I'm not enjoying the ride. But yeah, I'm excited because it introduces Luke Cage, a fantastic character that should be utilized far more than he is. And again, it's just another lamentation for me about the loss of the New Avengers, because one of the like absolute breakout stars of New Avengers was Luke Cage. So good stuff. Overall, nice use of time, nice use of subversion of expectations, and a good depiction of Luke Cage. I think Camp would do a fine job on a Power Man book. Also, maybe we see Ultimate Danny Rand in there as well. So overall, recommend it. I dig it. No complaints. I did unfortunately miss a few books this week because of the nature of my job in life. I had to record the ComicPop podcast, which will be every other week or every 2 weeks or so. And I had to do that. I had to do the Josh show, and I had to prepare for the interview that I'm doing this evening that'll be dropping on Sunday. The reasons all of those are why, and also Super Bowl Sunday was yesterday, and I attended a fun party, soiree, if you will, hosted none other by our esteemed colleague Ethan, who has a fantastic pad and a great, party. So we had fun. But as a result, unfortunately, I missed out on reading Birds of Prey and catching up on what's it called, Namor, which I'm it mea culpa. I was disappointed that I missed out on that. But and Wolverine, that's right, because I'm reading the Wolverine series, so it's a shame. But plenty of books to continue on with our show. I also, of course, read Batman. This is from Chip Zdarsky. In fact, the last issue from Chip Zdarsky, with art by Tony S. Daniel. Jorge Jimenez as well did some art. This is the finale of Chip Zdarsky's run on the Batman title. And then we're going to transition from the Zdarsky run to the Hattush run of Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb. And then we're going to Parts Unknown. Who knows who's going to take over for Batman after Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb pop in to do their sequel to Hush. I don't know. But yeah, this was Zdarsky has had an interesting career on Batman because he has done big, epic, bombastic storylines that I think he thought were no more ridiculous or bombastic than any other story he'd been in that has come before him, and yet was met with a lot of criticism. And then he just kept going. And I feel like, while I don't think that it will be a like forgotten gem that people are going to discover and rediscover over again, because I feel like the nature of it's not his fault. It's the nature of our reading habits now. Like, does anybody remember what happened in Jamestown and the Fourth's Batman run? Jamestown and the Fourth, Eisner Award-winning, creative, massive success in the independent scene, in the Vertigo scene, making TV shows. What the hell happened in his Batman run besides the creation of like a dozen characters that occasionally appear in random things? What happened in that run? And I'm not criticizing Tynan. I'm not using him to prop up Zdarsky. It's more like Tynan was roped up. Like, Tynan was part of this machine of like refresh story structure long before Chip got there. And it's like, there's just so much like overturn, not just creatively from the teams, but also from like the stories themselves. It's like, how many times can Gotham be burned down? How many times can Joker do XYZ? How many times can Batman refer to himself as an old man with the body of a 29-year-old? Like, it's so cyclical. And while comics themselves, especially Big Two comics, are cyclical, the Batman title has been like chronically, problematically cyclical. Like, it has been to its own detriment. That's why there are so many great new Batman books out there. Batman Dark Ages, all the Black Label books people have been enjoying, like City of Madness and Dark Matters. And like, there's so many great Batman books, Offworld, that like, it's easy to dismiss the main Batman title. But for some reason, when Chip has Batman Fall to the Moon, people are like, boo, that's bullshit. I hate everything you're doing. I think the Peacekeeper 1, or where the hell that guy was, way dumber than anything that happened in the Zdarsky run. But I digress. The last arc that Chip has had is exactly what I've been asking for from a Batman story. It's Batman and Jim. It's a mystery. It's old rogues, odd team ups. He's also clearly like putting toys back in the box. Fantastic. I've just been digging it. And it comes to a natural conclusion that I'm like, okay. And it does a couple things where I'm like, nah, whatever, shut up. Like, like there's a implication that like maybe Jim Gordon shot Mayor Nakano like on purpose, as opposed to being mind controlled by tech from Jervis Tetch. And I'm like, no. And even Batman's like, shh, don't ruin the end of this run by saying stuff like that. We didn't wrap up everything. Vandal Savage is apparently still in charge of the GCPD, but Gordon wants to be a cop. Batman's, doing his thing. There's no like distinct mayor. We could just move on and have somebody else, or we'll just do a row of stunt mayors from now on. But yeah, the art was fun. The story was cool. Nothing really to stand out. I will say, and I think maybe I'm alone on this. I don't know though. I don't want to criticize it too heavily, because I think that the artists are fantastic. It's Daniel did a great job on this story. But the return of Jorge Jimenez makes sense because Chip and Jorge worked really well together, and they'd worked before on their Batman run, so it makes sense to like bring Jorge back. But also, Jorge did the entire Jamestown and the Fourth run, and it's like Jorge has been more consistently on the Batman title than anyone else. And while I do love a good Jorge Jimenez splash, I'm ready for some new blood on this series. And not the and not in the form we've been getting it, where it's like, oh, Tony S. Daniels is going to pop in for 2 issues. Oh, Jorge Fornes is going to do like 1 issue. You know, pick a creative team and go with it. Can we please? Now that we're like in this new place where you have a stretch of runway because Lee and Loeb are gonna do their thing in the main Batman book, like it's 2003. And I mean, like, cool, good. I hope it helps inflate sales for the title. But whoever takes over for Batman after Chip is, I do not envy that job. Because while I think that writing Batman probably is easier than writing Amazing Spider-Man, or at least you get a little bit more breathing room, that's my expectation. I don't really know. But it certainly feels that way based on how like just flatlined the Amazing Spider-Man title is. You know, they set up a whole system of how to do this since Snyder and Capullo. You know, I don't envy the person who take the creative team that takes over after this, because I feel like they're going to be under an inordinate amount of pressure and scrutiny and criticism, and you know, more power to them. I hope it. I hope that whoever takes over has they're going to have the work cut out for them. Let's put it that way. But this was a welcome wrap up to the series. Like I was surprised when when this arc popped up. You know, the KG Beast and his incorporation. The use of the Court of Owls was probably unnecessary, but it was nice to see this kind of like, this is the whole world and this is how we're going to do it. And not in a like, and every Robin is going to do a thing and we're going to have 16 tie-ins. Like, no, it was very, it was oddly condensed and refreshing. So, you know, and this was one of those things where, not unlike Batman Off-World, I was like, I could probably see where this is going. And then it happened, and I was like, okay, good. And I'm not that kind of person who's like, oh man, I saw where it was going. How lame. No, I'm happy to be right. Or at least I'm happy to be entertained and still know where the ride ends off. So good for that run. I almost wish it had been more like this the whole time, but that seems more like the thing that Detective Comics is doing. And by the way, you know, Tom Taylor doing Detective. I don't love his like, oh, it's the sister. Oh, it's the son of the. Oh, it's the daughter of the. Like a lot of that in his runs. Notwithstanding the daughter of Joe Chill and Batman sleeping together, it's still a fun story, and it still does all the things I want from Batman. So, you know, it's still working. And then we read Absolute Superman #4. And I remember from issue 3, I was like, what the hell? This book is great. It is still great, and I still really much enjoy it. But yeah, so it is certainly not the last issue. We are very much done, it seems, with Krypton, which is kind of a shame. This is, of course, written by Jason Aaron with art by Rafa Sandoval. I don't know if, like, I never would have imagined that I would be excited or interested in the Krypton stuff until issue 3. Where it was the best thing about these books. You know, I don't have a problem with the Peacemakers, but I also don't care. And I'm kind of curious as to why they are, outside of it being kind of like a Judge Dredd thing. But okay. This whole issue is Lois Lane is looking for Superman, which I think every time you do a Superman reboot, this is what you do. You have a sequence where like Lois is just like, I got a thing in my craw called Superman and I gotta find it. And so that's what she does. Aaron has a lot to say about the state of the world, about the imperialization of the West, and about how we treat each other. And it is on full display in this book. And I can't say I blame or disagree, or at the very least, I can't say that it's not welcome or expected in a Superman book, especially a Superman book that, again, takes a lot of ideas from classic Superman, like Golden Age Superman, and more recently, Morrison's Superman. It actually reminds me of a moment that I saw on social media yesterday that features Superman from the Golden Age, and it's him dealing with this perp that he captures. And I'm just going to share it with you. I don't have it up, so I'm just going to read it to you. But it's Superman talking to his like villain of the issue on the pier, looking at a boat, and he says, "You see that steamer? It's the Baronta. Tomorrow it leaves for San Monte. Unless I find you aboard it when it sails, I swear I'll follow you to whatever hole you hide in and tear out your cruel heart with my bare hands. And the dude just goes, I'll be on it. I'm like, that's Superman. That's canon. Or at the very least, it's like early canon for Superman. But like, yikes. That's the Superman we're getting in the Absolute Universe. Although this book was very deliberate in its depiction of the Superman no-kill policy. Superman doesn't kill people. He will rough stuff up and he will be upset. And the whole book is about like the rage of Superman, but not about the fear, rather the desire from the disaffected. Like they want Superman to like be as mad as they and unleash it on their would-be oppressors. And I'm like, I hear what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Aaron. I get it. Rafa Sandoval's art is spectacular. There are beautiful sequences of Superman, though they are rare. Ulysses Areola does some fantastic heavy lifting with the colors, especially when it comes to the cape. I didn't even know what the hell Aaron was talking about when he said like, oh no, the cape is the dust of Krypton. I'm like, no, it isn't. But it is cool and consistent despite the fact that it's bizarre. And I appreciate that. And it is, I've never seen it done better than in the 4th issue of the series. I was like, this looks great. Just the way that Superman like appears, but like sends the cape first. So it just clouds the air with this big kind of like, I don't know, asphyxiating plume of cape. And it's really cool. I was like, this is neat. And beautiful looking and scary and it's like, yeah, Superman would be scary to people like the Peacemakers and and the Lazarus Corporation and stuff. We meet General Sam Lane in this issue, but moreover, we see parallels between young Clark and Lois. Young Clark wanted to be a writer. He fought against the Brainiac AI protocols of like, why are you writing for yourself? Lois Lane is doing the exact same thing because the Lazarus Corporation has incorporated Brainiac into their system. So it's the same crap, but different planet. Good stuff. I'm excited to see like this arc conclude because I want to read it all in one sitting, or at the very least see where Aaron wants us to be at the conclusion of this story. Because if you were to just write down all the things that happen in this 4-issue run so far, it's all the Krypton stuff, which again is like, I don't want to call it like metadata, or flavor text, but it kind of is because it all just informs who these characters are and why they're doing the thing we're paying attention to right now. But when it comes to like what's happening now, it's like Superman protects the disaffected, mostly in like Brazil and stuff. Lois looks for him. That's 4 issues. That's it. And while that's not, it doesn't, no book is good because it is filled with things that happen. That's not what I'm saying. It's going to be interesting to see it collected because when you read it all in one sitting, you're going to go, like, that was really fun, I guess, but like, what? So I don't know. I'm excited to see like where the designation is. Like, is it 5? Is it 6? Because there's, I think Absolute Wonder Woman and Batman both have their arcs ending at issue 5. And because they, the powers at DC were smart enough in their infinite wisdom to tell people that it was like part 2, 1, 3 of 5. People thought these were mini series that were only 5 issues long. I'm here to tell you, seemingly all of the Absolute books right now are ongoing series, especially the Trinity. So hang in there. Like if you pre-order these books because you thought you were only getting 5 issues, you're going to get a 6th issue in there. Which, by the way, of course, I just want to take a minute to remind you to pre-order your books because, it helps to keep your books alive. So the question becomes, what is my book of the week? And it's an interesting question because I think that there were no bad books in the bunch. Batman did a really nice job of giving me a story that I've been kind of complaining about not having for years. Superman continues its level of quality across the board. Ultimates is, sobering, cracked mirror version of reality. But I think just because this book is not going to be on a lot of lists for a long time, I got to give it to Batman Off-World. I just loved this series. It didn't apologize for being what it is, and it just always delivered on the premise that it, promised. Can't argue with that. So thank you to Aaron and Mankey for giving us a dope Batman miniseries that may or may not be in continuity. Who knows? But yeah, moving on, we're going to jump into the super chats and read some of those. We got Arduit here who says, "ComicPop Woo, much love to you." Thank you very much, Arduit. Really, really appreciate that, man. Hulkzilla says, "Wishing good health to Tiffany and loving the untitled shows with Ben and Ethan. Ben's disappointment in Jim Carrey's wasted potential was hilarious." I agree. I mean, you could catch me immediately. I'm like, what? Like, Ben was disappointed that Jim Carrey was Robotnik. He's like, "You're better than this, Robotnik." And I'm like, what are you talking about? See what we're talking about in that episode. Grant Sampson, thank you so much for your generosity. I wasn't super sold on Fantastic Four trailer, but I will be there opening night if we're going to get the Red Ghost and his super apes. I also really like the Thunderbolts trailer. I liked it too. I am sold on that Fantastic Four teaser, man, and I feel like I've really been milking it because that Thing picture, or at least one version of it, has been on like 3 different thumbnails in this channel, and one is on its way. Because if you think Joshua Williamson, writer of G.I. Joe, Nailbiter, and Superman, and I did not talk about the Fantastic Four for like 20 minutes and have theories abound, you have another thing coming, and you have a show to listen to coming tomorrow, actually. But yeah, man, I dug it. I'm hyped for Fantastic Four. Now, if we're gonna put Red Ghost and Super Apes in there, we just ratcheted this book up to 11. I've seen a lot of talk online about people being like about this book, or about this movie being like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if this was like a reboot?" Or like we said that, when after Secret Wars, when we rebooted, we just stopped here and like this was the beginning. And I'm like, I'd be very okay with that. Be very okay with that. We'll see. But it's a trailer. Thunderbolts, exactly. I love that trailer too. King of New York, wishing Tiffany a speedy recovery. Been taking a dive into a lot of indie comics recently. What would you say are some of your favorite indie titles of all time? Love you all. You too, King of New York. That is, this is a fantastic Tiffany question. I have read indie comics. I do enjoy them. I gotta tell you, there is one independent comic above all else, and it's not The Tick. Before we get started, because I love the Tick cartoon more than the comic book. There's one independent comic book, I think we all know what it is, that stands above all the rest for me when it comes to its scope and its depiction and its like world building and beauty and poignancy, and that's Bone. Jeff Smith's Bone. Entirely Jeff Smith. Just beautiful, incredible, fantastic storytelling. And if you have not, go pick up Bone. And right now, I think a lot of them are in like you can get the compendium that has like everything in it. I don't know how readable that is. Honestly, the way I like to read it was the Scholastic colorized versions with in full comic book form. Those are the best. But in a pinch, like if you have a young family member or a friend of a family member who like has, desires, or you want to get them to get into comics, there's 2 books to give them: Bone and Calvin and Hobbes. RLC Comics says, really loving Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man. Any chance he'll do it on back issues, or is it a slower burn story, harder to do on the show? No, man. Oh, well, wishes to Tiff. Thank you very much. No, man, it's never a slow burn. Like, slow burns sometimes make the best episodes. And yes, absolutely, Ultimate Spider-Man is happening on back issues. No way that isn't happening. We have the book. We're ready to go. I had to do Ultimate Invasion before we did Ultimate Spider-Man. That was the only difference. That was the only reason why Ultimate Spider-Man hasn't been on the show already. Jason Hedelson says, Sal, Tiffany, Ben, and Ethan are a lot of us nerds extended family, and we hurt when you do. Oh, thank you very much, man. Hope Tiffany is okay. We'll say a prayer. Come up. Thank you, Jason, for really appreciate it. And thank you. We're just regular folk like you, man. We're just trying to stay healthy. Hayden Hamilton, DWJ, D-Dubs signing on in LA tomorrow. Super hyped. Yes, I saw that as well. Golden Apple Comics, I believe, is where he's doing the signing. And man, do I wish he were near here. But as it stands, he travels. He goes to cons. King of New York returns to say, have you checked out any of the new Disney Plus Spider-Man show? I was really turned off by the trailer, but having seen 5 episodes now, I'm enjoying it quite a bit as an alternate MCU timeline. That certainly seems to be what their implication is, right? That they're like, they really want you to think like, oh, it's like the MCU, and it's got a lot of MCU stuff in it, but it's also completely not the MCU, and it's over there. It's okay. So I've seen the first 5 episodes because my occasional co-host DJ and I will probably be talking about it on another show. But I watched the first 2 episodes, and then after I finally finished like the second episode, they dropped 3 more episodes. I want to say that I love Eric Gapster and his art. And I really like the original designs from Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. That said, I hate it. Like, I hate that show. I think it's ugly. I think it's poorly written, and I think the voice acting is dead. Like, it's just, I think it must be for children. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, like, you don't respect me. Okay, like, I don't know. I just think everyone says what they're thinking. No one's like, there's no subtlety in the dialogue. It's just, I think it's a very poor show. If you enjoy it, I do not disparage you. I think there are certainly more of you than me if you enjoy that show, but I do not like it. And I want to like it. But the guy who plays Spider-Man is just terrible. Like, it's so forced and strained and awkward and wooden, and I just can't get into any of it. And the animation again is just the pits. Secret Boss says, I hope Tiffany gets better. Me too, man. Thank you. Cat Lawyer will defend for treats. I love Fantastic Four and back issues, especially Stan Kirby era. Well, then you are in luck, because there may be a big old 3-hour long episode where I talk about the first 10 episodes or 10 issues of that book. I don't know, but I do. But yeah, I love talking about those. Man, when I was refreshing and I was like preparing for that thing, first of all, I'm an idiot because I have that gorgeous like hardcover of it, and I didn't bring that out on the show. But yeah, I was like, as I was reading it again, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And it is. And it was a really fun episode. So hopefully you will enjoy it. It's not coming for a couple of weeks, but it is going to be fun. So yeah, that was our Tevia says, do you think Spidey's show is worse than Ultimate? It's hard to tell, man. Ultimate was pretty bad, but at least it was animated, which is, I don't know what you'd call whatever the hell Friendly Neighborhood is. So yeah, I guess Ultimate's a little better. The voice acting is awful in that one too, but like only mostly from Spider-Man. And Drake Bell's just the worst. Just a horrible Spider-Man. In every way. But yeah, no, the animation's at least a little better in Ultimate than it is in this thing. But yeah, outside of that, I want to mention that this show is, comes out Mondays live around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tiffany is streaming normally Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We'll see how she feels. But if you want to be on the ground floor for that, make sure to follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/ComicPop, or subscribe to our own Comic Pop gaming channel, which is aptly named ComicPop Plays. YouTube.com/ComicPop Plays. I believe every link for everything we do is in the description below every video we make. So click that link and go over there and subscribe. But if you are only here for podcasts, listen, we got you covered, baby. Come on by, subscribe, click the bell for notifications so you know when we go live or when shows go out, and stay tuned for more, because this week alone, we got today's episode of Off the Rack. We got tomorrow's episode of All Stars. We've got Sunday's episode of interviews with a fun, creative character that I think you will enjoy, as long as it happens, because we're going to be interviewing him at 10 p.m. tonight, unless he's not available. But 3 different shows all happening, plus Wednesday back issues, which I literally just finished editing before we started shooting this show today. It was a 2-hour plus long shoot. I got it down to 1 hour and 40 minutes, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. Like, I didn't lose 20 minutes at the end. I cut out 20 minutes over 2 hours in time, which is harder to do and is more work than you'd think. But, That's coming out on Wednesday. And I will tease you a little bit with this. It is a brand new book that is not from the big two. Oh, yeah. So I want to thank you all so much for hanging out. I want to thank you especially for your kindness and your well wishes for Tiffany, and a big old thanks to the Super Chatters for sponsoring today's show and making the lights continue to stay on. As I mentioned on the podcast, which is named in my head but isn't yet on paper, we have a massive leak, and because every time we get precipitation, it leaks more. I have all the buckets necessary to catch this, but I did talk to our landlord, and they said that they will not be making any repairs until spring. So I am just going to have holes in the ceiling at the studio for the next several months. And so we're dealing with that as we go. But I want to thank our super chatters and our patrons for helping to at least allow us to keep the lights on, unless they go off, in which case I have to move. But yeah, so thank you for the well wishes on that. I appreciated those when I mentioned it the last time. But yeah, man. Otherwise, I think that's it. I usually use these episodes also to kind of check in with you folk and be like, hey, what are we doing? What's new? What are we working on? But yeah, I don't want to belabor it. So for now, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and for chatting and being respectful to each other and me in the chat. And I'll see you. Well, you'll see me tomorrow, but I'll see you sooner rather than later. Thanks a lot, guys.